Hello and welcome back to the Go for Two podcast. I'm Liam, your host, and we're here for our Week 6 review. And I'm joined by a man who's not happy after his team's performance, but it's on Thursday night football, so we don't have to talk about that. It's too far away, so we get to talk about all these other teams. Of course, everyone's favourite Eagles fan, Patrick. How are you doing, mate? After I heard Robert Mays call it a sleepy Sunday. That might be generous, but a sleepy Sunday. How are you feeling after Week 6?
Yeah, feeling okay. Glad the Eagles game is further away than this week's Thursday night football game, so that's definitely gone in the past. It was a bit of a sleepy week this week. We did get them, don't we? We're going to chat about the London game. I don't think that kicked off Sunday very well at all. And 6 p.m. Red Zone was okay, but the close games, they weren't massive games. The Jags Seahawks was a letdown, and then the evening slate was ruined by injuries, and so it's just one of those weeks. And two cracking games Monday Night Football though.
Yeah, that could be the saviour. Definitely, the Monday night games should be good. And also, I do feel we have to stay up late, but this is the one time I was like, oh my God, those West Coasters that work in podcasts or the NFL or whatever, and they got to get up at 6 a.m. to watch the London game. This was a week I felt sorry for them for the first time. Usually I feel sorry for us, having to stay up till 4 a.m. on a Sunday night. But then I was like, I wouldn't have wanted to get up at 6 a.m. and have to cover that game if that was my job. But we'll talk about that in a bit. In terms of Monday Night Football, two good games. We both picked the Bills -3.5 against the Falcons. I picked the Commanders -4.5 against the Bears, and you picked the Bears +4.5. We're recording this on Monday evening, but probably will release Tuesday morning. So that's why, for anyone listening, we won't talk about the Monday night games. But if they're very good, the best games ever, I might get Patrick to jump out of retirement midweek to do a 10-minute pod. Who knows? But if not...
If the Bears beat Washington, I'm not interested in another fluky Hail Mary.
Yeah, if there's a Hail Mary, I'll record on my own. We'll see. Cool. So let's review Week 6 then, minus those two fun, hopefully, Monday night games. We'll go through our usual sections. We've got Game of the Week, Shock of the Week, Patrick's Hot Seat, and then we'll go 10 minutes around the NFL. That's what's titled. But after a sleepy week, might be less than that. We'll see. See how long we want to talk about Week 6 for. But let's start on a positive note and go Games of the Week and kick us off, mate. I think you've got quite a... Again, is it a great game? Not really, but is the storylines and the score make it Game of the Week? I think so.
Yeah, I think so as well. It was Red Zone's best game at the 6 p.m. slate. Chargers beating the Dolphins 29-20. A game where the Chargers, they had to have it. They were up a good amount in the second half, and then it looked like they'd kind of thrown it away. Obviously, Dolphins got 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They were looking... the Dolphins kind of came out of nowhere. Obviously, Achane had a great game. Without him, it's hard to know that Miami could ever move the ball. Obviously, the huge play on 2nd and 10 on the game-winning drive to Herbert got out of the sack, found Ladd McConkey, who found his way somehow down the field. He's had a really disappointing second season, by the way, Ladd. And that was by far his biggest play of the season, and probably the Chargers' biggest play of the season. I would say bigger than anything in the Chiefs game, because after starting 3-0 and then losing 2 in a row, especially one to the Giants, which they wouldn't have wanted to do, this was a massive win to kind of get back into the win column and sit atop the AFC West still now.
Yeah, the tide was turning a bit, wasn't it, on their season? So that's
it was.
Yeah, of this play. You're right. It's a bad missed tackle, though, from Miami. Missed tackle.
And also Jalen Phillips got to Herbert and didn't wrap him up either. So it was...
Yeah, the whole play was a nightmare from them. We'll talk about Dolphins in a minute. I think you're right to start with the Chargers. They go to 4-2. Listened to a pod last night, and they were talking about, they kind of come out of this game feeling worse about the Chargers, which I think is completely fair. But you got to stack that record if you want to make the playoffs sometimes. And I think just doing that and seeing Ladd look a little bit better, seeing the corners play well at times in the first half, is probably a positive to them. But I think it was just all about getting the win and kind of no more injuries. I know they had a couple of knocks in this game, but it's like the first game in like 3 weeks where I feel like there hasn't been a major Charger injury yet that we know about. And Derwin James as well played pretty well, which I think they've needed if they're going to get into the playoffs and win a game. So yeah, they go to 4-2, 29-27 over the Dolphins. From the Dolphins' perspective, Sam, who runs the Full 10 Yards NFL pod, who has me on as a guest, who listens to this, may or may have not been winding him up about this result immediately as Tua threw a pick on a Hail Mary, which is absolutely mental. But his view was 2 weeks in a row that Tua's had the perfect game-winning drive. apparently, and played extremely well. And the defense have given up a score right at the end. Where do you see the woes of the team? Like, I know you don't love the head coach, but is it just the coaching? Is it the defense? Is it the offense? Is it everything? Like, where's the blame coming from? And, what area of the team do you see watching this where you're like, it's just not working for Miami?
Well, offensive line is abysmal. It really is abysmal, isn't it? There was a couple of Dolphins fans from the US who I follow. They was kind of posting out some kind of game tape from a few weeks ago and highlighting some things, and I watched it for like 40 minutes just on the Dolphins offensive line because I found it interesting. I was like, this was quite bad, actually. Yeah, so it just... But I wouldn't make perfect last drive. Very good on the last drive. Certainly was a perfect game through 3 picks. I know one of them at the end was on the Hail Mary. But when you take out Devon Achane out of the equation, Miami really struggled to move the ball. Waddle had a good game yesterday, didn't he? He was kind of 6 for near on 100 yards. Apart from that, there's a lot missing in Miami from the offensive line to kind of the coaching. Obviously, Tua has been probably the most divisive quarterback since he's been in the league, to be honest with you. And so it's just, then you flip over the defense. It's like, I feel like they actually can get around the quarterback, especially Jalen Phillips can get around the quarterback, but he never wraps them up or kind of makes a play ever, or sometimes on those drives, like when Herbert needs to do that. Sacks aren't everything, we know that, but you have to kind of affect the play a little more than you do there. So, I mean, it's a lost season, isn't it, for Miami? We did kind of think this, by the way, in the summer, that we said that I think these are going to be pretty bad. And it is working out like that.
Yeah, it is working out like that. What did you make of the post-game comments from Tua? I don't know if you've seen this, but saying that we've got problems. Players aren't turning up for players-only meetings. Players are turning up late. We're going to have to make them mandatory. And Mike McDaniel comes out and says, sounds like he wanted to get something off his chest. Sounds like he's frustrated. Feels like this is just not going in the right direction. I mentioned my friend Sam earlier as well. And the first message he replied before he mentioned Tua was, someone's just got to get fired, like ASAP. And it's probably going to be Mike McDaniel, right? But there's other people in the organization, it feels like, are at fault. But what did you make of Tua's press conference? Because, again, he's like the most honest quarterback, probably to his own detriment in the NFL.
He is, yeah. And those comments are absolving oneself, right, from a bad situation where, I mean, we've all had a job where we've kind of, if something goes wrong, you find it our way. Well, it's not me. Yeah, McDaniel, I think, is going to get fired. Like I said to you the other week, actually, it feels weird. He is in the position where he's already fired and they're just waiting for the day to do that. So that's a really tough spot for him to be in. I know I'm not a massive fan of him as a head coach, but it's an unfortunate spot to be in. So, yeah, it's difficult. Chris Greer, the GM, every Dolphin fan I know always says he has to go as well. But we'll see.
Yeah, he's a lifer, isn't he? Like 30-odd years or something, isn't it?
Exactly. So that's difficult when you're entrenched that far in the organisation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So looking ahead for them, it's probably a case of moving on from the coach whenever it is. And probably the best thing for them is a bad record now and to have a high draft pick and just kind of restart next year. They've got players like Tyreek to get off the books, build around whoever they think the people are. There's rumors they could trade Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips at the deadline. There's rumors about Jalen Wright could be traded, the running back. So it feels like this is an opportunity to get a better draft pick, kind of reset, and then, see who they're building around for next year. Because, this team this isn't it. Quick finishing thoughts on the Chargers going forward. Obviously 4-2. Not the hardest schedule in the world, but injuries are an absolute nightmare for them. Like, after that, where does this lead you to then? They got the Colts next, then the Vikings. So 2 actually harder games than probably people would think. Are you still confident this is a playoff team, or the injuries just mounting up too much for you?
Yeah, they are mounting up, but great to tread water and win this game. If you can pick up one of the next 2 in conference against the Colts would be amazing. But if you can pick up one of those, then you've got Tennessee, then you've got Pittsburgh. If you can kind of just stay ahead. I mean, because I had a lot, it's only week 6, but at my break earlier at work, I had a look at the AFC playoff picture. And as you know, like I like to do, but it's going to be tough this year in the AFC because there's a lot of good teams outside of the playoffs currently that you would think are going to make a run. So for LA to tread a bit of water now, sit at 4-2, need to pick up one of the next 2 games, I think. Maybe a home to Minnesota. I mean, they're both at home, so.
Yeah, they should win one in theory, shouldn't they? Especially if Joe Alt's back
they
for the
want
second game, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, big win for them, and yeah, another game where Miami kind of loses at the end. Cool. On to my game of the week then. Of course, I'm picking this game for game of the week. Sunday Night Football, best game of the week, regardless of who I support, but also one of the greatest offenses in the NFL is on its way back, and the Chiefs beat the Lions 30-17, and quite a fun game actually. A very weird first half where it was the quickest first half ever because every team was going for it on fourth down. The Lions were running it on every play, but the Chiefs come out in the second half, dominate a lot more than they did in the first half. Offense looks really good. Defense didn't look great to start, but got better of the game, as obviously Spags defenses tend to. And the Lions made a couple of self-inflicted wounds to kind of cost them the game. And again, both teams are dealing with injuries, but the Lions' secondary injuries are, definitely a big problem for them. But yeah, I'm biased, but even listening to other pods, Chiefs offense looks back. Defense is improving. They'll probably make a trade. And the Lions had a lot of injuries, so it doesn't really say a lot about their season. It feels like this game was a nothing loss for them, really, apart from maybe stuff at the end of the game, which, Dan Campbell's probably going to get one of his best players suspended for now. But, overall, I thought fun game for the neutrals, great game for me, and nice to see Patrick Mahomes being the best player in the world again.
Yeah, he was great. He was great, wasn't he? The one thing I'll say on what you just said, I think because the Lions can draw a line under that game, that's why it didn't feel like a gigantic game of football in week 6, maybe between, two of the best. Because this could be a Super Bowl, in 3 months' time or whatever. So it was like, it didn't really feel like that. Really like the look of the Chiefs. They looked a lot better. Obviously, Detroit didn't seem to have a lot of juice, by the way, in the second half. What like you'd expect
on offense.
It was a strange performance actually. And if they met again in the future, I wouldn't expect that to kind of look similar. Chiefs. You play what's there on the field, don't you? So and they dominated on offensively. Yeah, great performance all round actually from Kansas City. Obviously now back to 3-3 and looking a lot more healthy.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have been 4-2 if you don't lose the worst game in the world in Florida to a team that has no business in winning, but that's a separate issue. But I think you're right about the Lions offense. So Collinsworth was pretty good talking about it last night around. It just feels like that 2-score lead in the first half, they can still run it. Second half, they can still run it, but most teams do end up passing it. And it just feels like the minute they get into drop back pass game, it's just not the same. And I think maybe the offensive line, like you said, lost a bit of juice. I think Chris Jones looked pretty good. But yeah, I think the defense is the defense. Like they're injured. The line's not great anyway. And the Chiefs offense now for 3 weeks have been really good. So I don't think if you're a Lions fan, you'd be worried about the defense at all because the players are only out for 3 or 4 weeks. They're not out for 12 months. But the offense, you'd be a little bit like, it's 2 games against good teams with the Packers and Chiefs where we've got down 10 or more, tried to pass it, kind of deliberately gotten away from our own run game, and then tried to go back to the run game and not been able to do it because the team just sells out. It just feels like maybe that's one to watch, that if they're ahead in games, they could win by 30. But if they're 10 points down, are they going to be able to come back in the playoffs? Do you know what I mean? I think that's a concern we've had of the Ravens offense in the past. It feels like the Lions, again, it might be a nothing game, but just wonder if that's one to watch going forward.
It's absolutely one to watch because obviously this team has been one of the best in the NFC and NFL in the last 3 years. They haven't made a conference championship game yet, by the way. They got blasted by Washington in Detroit last year when they were behind the whole game and really kind of look similar to this, in panic mode when they go into that mode and go away from Detroit Lions football from the last couple of years. It doesn't look as good, does it? So it's absolutely is something to watch down the road, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think now's the time for them as well. They've kind of proven that, I think it is Dan Campbell's team and offense. Ben Johnson is really good, but he's obviously done a good job at backfilling that spot. The DC, I think, looks really good. Technically, trained under Spags, actually, in his younger days. So I think they've kind of proved that, but it's now that final step of, like, how do we come back in games we're losing? How do we have a bit of a better drop-back game? And then probably, are we going to make that aggressive swing or two? You mentioned it last week. It wasn't so aggressive, but the Jags made that trade. You liked it because, like, okay, cool, we're making a trade when we're good, when we're ready to take the next step, rather than making a trade when we're terrible, trying to catch up. It feels like, the Lions should be a buyer. I don't know if you'd agree, but it just feels like maybe pass rusher, it's not Clowney, it's the other guy who always signs late for everyone. But they let Zadarius Smith, they let him.
The man who's just retired, Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, exactly. He's the one. It feels like they're a trade of that level of a player. I don't know if you agree, but that's to me where they can make a difference. Get another pass rusher, carry on being good on offense. You'll get your corners back. But yeah, I think one trade and then, hopefully improve that drop back pass game. The Lions will be fine, but they've got to prove it, right?
I totally agree. I mean, I don't know how a good team like that looks at their conference and says one more piece, and we're completely happy with the roster. So yeah, well, let's see. I think there's a few teams like that, and it's funny that you should mention, like, instead of waiting until you're bad, it's kind of like everyone's on Philadelphia, like Twitter. It's like, well, we need a trade, and it's like, actually, maybe we don't need to trade because maybe they're just not that good this season, and we just save whatever assets we've got. Do you know what I mean? But I don't feel like that for a Detroit or for a Jacksonville last week.
Yeah, I think this could be a year where they make a good trade. Trey Hendrickson, I think, is going to be I feel like Trey is going to be a Colt or a Lion or an Eagle or a Ram. I just feel like he's going to that sort of player is going to be moved. Like, you're not talking Max Crosby, but you're talking someone who's on a 1-year deal. I think the Lions will probably get aggressive, and then we'll see. Their schedule actually is difficult all year, but a couple of their games eased off because of injuries. But they've got through that part of the schedule. But they've still got Bucks away, Vikings away, then Commanders at home, Eagles at home, and then it softens up a little bit with the likes of the Cowboys and the Giants. But they've still got 4 hard games now, right? So they'll need to bounce back next week on Monday Night Football against the Bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost devastation that you've said that, by the way, that Detroit and Tampa Bay is Monday Night Football. And they've snuck Seattle and Houston on as a double header, by the way, next week. Didn't even know that until this morning. I was like, surely not.
It's midnight, though, I think, the better game. So
it is. It's separate games, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a little bit more acceptable for someone like me who stays up. But anyone who listens knows you'll be in bed by 10. You're not staying up for that. So that's
not on a Monday night. Not.
Yeah, exactly. Final thoughts on the Chiefs as a neutral, like going forward. What do you think? What do you learn from this game or take from this game that you think could go into moving forward, especially with obviously Rashee Rice coming back next week?
Yeah, Rice is coming back. I really like the next 2 games. Raiders, Commanders, both at home. Then they got Bills, Broncos, Colts. That'll be interesting. I still don't think it's the level of play looks good on offense. I still don't think that it is the same team that teams are afraid of as previous years. I still feel like it's like that. Maybe if they knock 5 in a row and beat Buffalo as well, teams are going to go, oh, I can't believe that the Chiefs are back again. But it feels like to me that teams in the AFC probably don't have that feeling yet. They do look a good unit, to be fair, but the games that they've lost, I definitely think they will lose more of those type of games. Probably shouldn't have lost to the Eagles. Definitely shouldn't have lost to Jacksonville. I think there's more games out there to lose for that.
Yeah, mistakes rather than being a worse team.
Exactly.
Being that mistake-riddled, kind of unorganized, like, okay, we can't fix everything with a 60-yard pass, so we've got to be a bit more perfect. So, yeah, I would agree with that. They've got, like I said, they've got a couple of good games, and then they go Bills, Broncos, Colts, and then I know the Cowboys aren't the greatest team in the world, but Cowboys on Thanksgiving, still a hard game. We'll see. Cool. On to shocks of the weeks then. Speaking of the team that I just mentioned from Jerry World, we'll go over to you, mate, for your shock. And this game, ironically, in one of my leagues is like it's a win pool, basically. It's kind of like Survivor, but you have to pick a team to lose and a team to win every week. And 60% of people are out now because of the Cowboys game this week. So, yeah, Panthers v. Cowboys. What did you make? I'm sure you were very happy. This made you feel better after Thursday night.
Right. I know I put it in the shock of the week. Is it a shock? Not sure. I think the shock is that Carolina have knocked off 3 games back to 500. Dallas, I think they are who they are. I saw someone earlier, it was a Dallas UK fan page, and they put, even if the Cowboys defense was just ranked 16th overall, they'd be 5-1 on top of the NFC. I was like, listen, mate, it don't work like that, I'm afraid. It's just, you got one of the worst defenses go. Pressure then on the offense. You're not going to score and move the ball every single drive. The run game was abysmal this week. That was great again. He's got a losing record now for his players. Probably been, you could argue that he's been the best QB in the NFL this season. I think you could win that argument, but it's like, what you kind of want to say, the rest of the team is like poor on defense. The run game's not there. The line looks good. Pickens was amazing, by the way. yesterday. I know you
okay.
love George Pickens, but he looked like Randy Moss yesterday. He just couldn't be stopped.
He's trying to hurdle everyone. He wouldn't stop
Yeah.
hurdling. When there was no one around, he was trying to hurdle someone. Yeah, he's a fun player when he's on. Him and Dak are like got a great connection already. But yeah, you're right. Well, they scored 27 points and lost, right? It's what we said. It's like they're going to score 27 to 35 points every game, but will they win enough games? I was getting towards the point where I think maybe they were, but it just feels like the defense just, yeah, the rush defense is just an absolute disaster.
I mean, Rico Dowdle, he's gone over 200 yards in 2 games in a row. By the way, he loved that yesterday. He actually said, "This is my revenge game." And I actually love that. Because you know how people, we always big it up. We've said it on here, it's the so-and-so revenge game. But he was like, "No, this is my game this week." And he went out there, 183 yards on 30 carries. That's just magical, isn't it?
Yeah, and the catch that he's got a touchdown on was what, 30-odd yards, was it? Catch?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. In the press conference in the week as well, they was like, how he said it was a revenge game, like you said, and they asked him, what's your message to the Cowboys? And he was like, "Oh, you better strap up." And then walking off the field, said they asked him a question, and the only thing he said was like, "They didn't strap up," and then he walks off, and I was like, "That is cool." That is cool, even though he's a player like half people probably never heard of. That is a very cool answer.
I love that because he plays for Carolina as well. He's not like, "Oh, I've been traded to the Chiefs and now I'm going to give it the big one," is he? He played for Carolina, they backed it up.
They did. And we criticised that run game last year and spoke about Bryce Young not getting help from the run game. Obviously, Chuba Hubbard looks really good, gets hurt. Now Rico Dowdle looks good. I don't know what it means long-term at quarterback or head coach, but Dave Canales is definitely finding some solutions to having an underperforming team. Because a couple of weeks ago, we were like, they're the worst team in the NFL. But it's just like, I think maybe they're well coached and maybe they can't be the worst team and maybe they're the worst talented team. They're in there, but maybe they're being coached really well. I think Canales has done well the last couple of weeks. I'd like them to not be down 20 every week, but they seem to come back and believe in him and believe in Bryce Young. And if you're going to rush 200 yards a game, you got a chance of beating anyone in the NFL. It feels like at times for the one-off week.
Bryce was pretty good this week. He had his one terrible interception, but he actually bounced back very well from it. And by the way, Carolina at the New York Jets this week to go for a winning record in week 7, the Carolina Panthers. That for me is progression. And I think I said about a month ago, this team is not progressing. But actually, like you said, they look well coached, well drilled for the talent that they've got on the team, and they're winning some games.
Yeah, they are winning some games. Yeah, and they definitely look like they're playing for this coach and playing for Bryce. And yeah, offensive line as well. Ike Ekwonu, so good in this game against the run. So yeah, their fans will be very happy. I feel like I was going to get a college football storm the field when they made that field goal from Panthers fans in this one. But yeah, it's exciting for them just to win these games. We can't talk about the Panthers and not talk about the worst lateral in football, though. Xavier Legette's going to the ground, laterals the ball 3 yards behind him. I think that was to Rico Dowdle. He picks it up. They strip it, and then I think the tackle maybe falls on it. That is perhaps one of the dumbest. We don't do dumb play of the week. Maybe we should, but that was hilarious watching that on Red Zone. I was like, "What is Xavier Legette doing?" He just had no concept of where he was on the field.
He's lucky. Actually, got back on the ball as well. He was the one that recovered it. I was like, "Oh my god, yeah, brain dead." He's struggling in his NFL career from the place he was drafted. But yeah, that didn't help his cause yesterday.
No. The other guy looks good though. Ted McMillan, really good. Haven't spoken about him much.
Yeah, he looks great. Yeah,
got his first touchdown I think yesterday. Deep down the field. Bryce Young, not the greatest quarterback. Gets the ball out. Sometimes it's not the most accurate. He'll bring it in. He's got that catch radius like George Pickens, ironically, to bring that in. What about your boys going forward? The Cowboys offense is great. This wasn't a great game from the run game, like you said. I'm just about to pull up their schedule, so I know about Thanksgiving. But they got Commanders on the road, Broncos at home, Cardinals on the road. Then they go Raiders, Eagles, Chiefs. Feels like some winnable games and some really difficult games. Is there any hope this is a playoff team, or is the defense just that bad that this is a bit of a wasted season?
Well, if you'd had a look at the NFC playoff picture like I did this morning during my lunch break, you'd know that already, if you have a quick look, it's looking quite set with the teams that are in there. And you've got kind of like Minnesota just outside looking in. It's going to be really tough. I don't know how this team improves on defense enough to win. I mean, my God, you've got to beat the teams on your schedule. I mean, like Carolina. They've got a losing record now, and they have their tie, which is either helps you or really hinders you when it comes to the end of the season. Can they beat an Arizona at home? I'm not convinced. That the offense is great, but the pressure on that every drive is anything could happen when the Cowboys are on defense, right? So it's just, it's going to be tough, but interesting what's going to happen with obviously Parsons being traded, or kind of what Jerry's going to say where Dallas end up. I feel like they have to really make a playoff push.
Yeah, I would agree, and it is going to be off the back of the offense for sure. I think their issue is if they could just be good against the run, they'd at least know they'd get Dak back on the field to play offense. But it's like, well, if the other team are going to have 14-play rushing drives, it's like he's only going to get 6 possessions and have to score 6 times. Whereas if you were that sort of team where you're good against the run, but you give up explosive passes, at least you're like, okay, we'll get some picks. We'll get back on the field every now and then. We'll score points. But now it's a bit like, if they can just run it against us, Dak's got to be perfect. And he's playing amazing, but you can't, you don't want your quarterback to have to be perfect every week. So, it will be one, it will be one to watch. And then obviously when CD comes back, the offense will probably just get even better. But I would find it funny if they make a big trade on defense at the deadline. After trading literally maybe the best defender in the league, then they panic and make a trade. That would be very Jerry. So we'll see if that happens. Onto my kind of shock of the week-ish. Again, there wasn't many shocks to choose from, but we're calling it shock, or I should call it shocking of the week, maybe. I've just gone for the London game. Broncos were heavily favoured. Broncos should have won. Broncos did win, so that element isn't a shock. But how bad this game was, the Broncos win 13-11 to the Jets. The Jets have the worst amount of offensive yards of any team this season, the most amount of sacks. But don't let that take it away from Bo Nix being absolutely awful as well in this game. It's kind of a shock just because I can't believe an NFL game is this bad. I think it's the second lowest scoring London game from what you said on Twitter. But it is one of the worst games. And I've heard 2 pods today, American pods, say, like, this is one of the worst games I've watched in a few years that isn't affected by weather. And I feel like the fans that paid all that money to be there were going to be pretty disappointed. Unless you're a Broncos fan, we all love seeing our team win. Even if it's crap, it's a win. But anyone who's not a Broncos fan probably left this game and been like, I can't believe I spent $200 to watch that.
And people were being very vocal about saying that. Obviously, I have a decent amount of followers and I follow quite a lot of people. And the disappointment. I mean, can you believe I watched every snap of this game? I could have been doing something else. It's going to end up 13-11. I watched every snap and I was just like, Jets minus 10 net passing yards. And it's just like, you're not going to get that in a game this season. I mean, Fields that's the worst he can play, holding on to the ball for so long. I read it was over a second longer on the sacks than any other quarterback this season. Like Caleb Williams is the highest in like the medium range. So it's just like, ridiculous play. He was under pressure a lot, of course, but he wasn't getting rid of the ball. They couldn't run it. The decision-making was a disgrace. I sent you a massive text yesterday because I just couldn't believe how the first half ended up.
I was in a restaurant, by the way, having a nice dinner and reading this text, absolutely dying laughing of your commentary of the 2-minute drill for anyone that didn't watch it. Yeah, I thought you were good. I thought it was a good drive. I checked the score and was like, oh, did Fields score? Is it a touchdown? And then I was like, they didn't even score. What's he on about? And then when you sent me the follow-up, I was like, oh my God, this Jets team are a complete disaster.
Complete and utter disaster. I think you asked me about 3 weeks ago if you'd be worried about Aaron Glenn, and I said no. 3 weeks later, if he didn't go back to London with the team, I think that would be wholly merited because he looked completely and utterly out of his depth yesterday. The decision-making just then, the play calling off the back of that. Yeah, you're not calling the plays, but you're the head coach in there. You can veto anything and say, let's push the ball down the field. Let's do something. And it was just, it was, I don't know how anybody can have a worse performance than that this season, to be honest. He's not been good in London this year. And I do think the fans are really feeling the apathy with the price tag as well.
Yeah, we'll end on like the general London thing. I think that's a good shout, to be honest. In terms of Jets, it was like 9 sacks. You mentioned that stat. It was 5.75 seconds. So for context, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes get out in 2.55, and he was 5.75. That is mental. So it's not really the offensive line, unfortunately. It's the receivers who can't get open, and you've chosen the quarterback who needs receivers to be open. He's not going to make quick decisions. That's not who he is. He doesn't throw it quickly. And you just made that even worse by surrounding him by people that just can't get open. Obviously, their best player is marked by Pat Surtain, so that's never going to be a good thing. And I think you're right. It probably is one of the worst performances because the other team playing so bad, means they have a chance to win. So I think the fact they look so incapable of winning that game when the Broncos offense played that bad is even worse. I think it's just, I know if you lose 40-3, it looks bad, but I almost think a loss like this in London with what? They're 0-6, not 0-5, aren't they? Yeah. And the context of he commented after the game saying they didn't want to give the Broncos a chance to score, but he went for a fake punt on his own 37. Then didn't go for it. Wasted 30 seconds before calling the timeout. Then he didn't go for it on 4th and 1. Then he's arguing with Garrett Wilson on the sideline. Then it gets to the end of the game. Justin Fields can't do anything. They take a sack on 1st down after they've just had a 5-yard run. Then the 2nd down, they throw it, incompletion. Then they get it to 3rd and 8, throw it, incompletion. So he's still not running it. Bear in mind, his quarterback hasn't been able to throw it all day. And then on 4th and 8, rather than kick a 60-yard field goal, which is hard, but he kicked a 56-yard the week before, so it's 4 yards. He then goes for it on 4th and 8 with a quarterback who hasn't been able to complete an 8-yard pass all game. I just do not understand that. And then after the game, they asked him, will you bench Justin Fields? And he was like, what a stupid question is that? I can't believe he'd even asked me that. And it's like, he feels completely out of his depth and completely unaware of every situation, apart from probably when his team's playing defense. But he's not calling the defensive plays. He lets Steve Wilkes do that. So he needs to do something else. And yeah, I think all those things together is just a complete disaster for the Jets. I feel bad for their fans, but yeah, I think those things are just terrible. But we probably should also talk about the fact Sean Payton is running it on 3rd and 10 every time because he does not trust his quarterback either to make a throw. And I can't believe I'm still listening to pods that say the Broncos are going to win playoff games. Because I think that game has to... They're telling you every week they don't trust that quarterback to throw it 11 yards on 3rd and 10. That's just my opinion. I don't know what you thought. You watched all the game. Like, was Bo Nix not as bad as I'm saying he was?
I mean, how lucky can you be that the whole London experience was terrible and the Jets gave him the worst performance that maybe you'll ever see because Denver, I was so mad that Philadelphia had lost 1 week prior to this team because and then I just got to the realization that I don't think the Eagles are very good this year. So I was like, I can't believe this performance. Bo Nix was awful, truly awful. They don't have a run game either. I don't want to hear about kind of J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. It was not good. They ran the ball so many times as well with kind of different players. But yeah, Evan Engram looked the only kind of bright spark when you needed a 1st down. He could kind of get you a couple throughout the game, but it's poor. I know the Jets have the defense is okay. They're calling a good defense. Yeah, Broncos, absolutely abysmal. That is not, for me, a team that's going to go win a playoff game. Not a chance playing like this.
I'll be so disappointed if they win the division. That's really tells you the Chargers and Chiefs aren't going to be winning playoff games either if the Broncos win the division. But they might turn it around. Obviously, got a great head coach and a very rich owner who will probably make some trades or a trade at the deadline. But yeah, they've got to let, even I don't love Bo Nix, but he showed you last year he can throw it more than they're letting him throwing it this year on 3rd and 10. Let's go back to the last topic then about this game, and then we'll move on quickly. NFL London price hikes all over the place. The season ticket thing's a bit weird now on how many you can get, and they've split them from the Wembley game, and a lot of people basically don't do that anymore. Loads of Jets fans were obviously complaining because it was the Jets, which I get, but I saw loads of neutrals. I don't follow as many people as you, but I saw loads of neutrals say, this is it. I think the product, the amount of free tickets they give out is a constant complaint that there's just free tickets all over the place, and then the proper fans, as you'd call it, are spending 200 quid. I feel like everywhere but London, it's growing and will grow, and they want the 16 games a year abroad, which I think is going to make sense. I think Madrid, Berlin, Melbourne, whatever, that'll all go well. But I'm with you. It feels like unless they shrink the price or shrink the number of games, they have to just send higher level quarterbacks over, or else I'm not sure it's going to survive in terms of like the products. I think they'll always sell tickets, but I don't think it'll be the experience they want. I think it'll just become like an England football friendly where it's just not a nothing game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's so many people on my timeline, and my biggest thing about it is I know for a fact with any kind of marketing strategy that NFL UK have got, they do not want me in that stadium. A fan who's watched it for a long time. They've got me now. I have my Sky Sports subscription. I'll buy merchandise wherever. They want, the expansion of Channel 5 and things like that. They kind of want the new users basically coming to their site. It's just, Jets have a huge UK fan base, big UK fan club. They couldn't care less if they were there or not. They just want to fill the stadium with really expensive tickets. Like you go to any concert now, and it's like, oh my God, how much is it to see this concert? It's like, it's crazy. Like £200 to sit at the back for the Jets and the Broncos. It's insane, to be honest with you. It's not, the halftime shows are always a bit of a joke, you know, and have a complete disconnect with the people that's in the crowd and everything. So then they had the app issues last week, and yeah, it's lost its juice, to be honest with you. It's controversial, but I think reducing the games and making them a little better would be, because I mean, they have been bad now, by the way, for years. And I'm not one to say the Jets and the Broncos is a bad game. It's a big game if you support those teams. Of course it is, but it's just like, it's not even like a Packers versus Bengals that we saw on that to me is like wow factor coming over to the UK, and it's just, that's not there anymore, is it? I mean, Jets 2 years in a row, I think 3 in 5 years now.
Yeah, I think that's partly the problem. And it's like if they want to stick to high prices, they have to send a better game over, I think, to keep people interested. Or they go lower prices and they just churn we're going to have 4 games a year. It'll probably be half of them will be bad, but you'll get to see it for 90 quid. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, which way they go, and they want to go the more expensive route, obviously. So it would not surprise me next year if you see. I always talk about my own team, so but you see the Chiefs, or you see the Lions, or you see the Eagles, who haven't been over for a while, by the way. Chiefs and Eagles haven't been over for a while. It feels like that's going to happen, because otherwise, if they keep giving good games, Melbourne will get a good game next year, guarantee it. It's just, it gives an issue for the product, but we'll see. I know we shouldn't moan about getting the games, but I do feel unfair that people, desperate to see it and have to spend 200, and then they're not really getting value for the money at all, unfortunately, at the games. But next week should be better. And I personally do feel like the Wembley games are a better atmosphere, because more people do give at least half care about the Jags who play at Wembley. And then they've sent a good team over next week. So I think next week it'll be good, and then everyone will forget about it, and then the NFL might get to do it again. But let's hope next year they send a better team over. Cool. Let's go to hot seat then, unless you're going to say NFL UK commissioner, which we've already spoke about. Who's on your hot seat? I probably stole this from you, by the way. I think Aaron Glenn would have been this if I hadn't stole it from you. So where did you go?
Yeah, he would have been, but I thought we was going to talk about that anyway. So he was second on my list, even though he obviously should be top. The top of my list this week is John Harbaugh. How can you have anyone other than John Harbaugh, the 1-5? Listen, I know the injury is mounting and piling up. You go and look at the San Francisco 49ers. Their injury list is as bigger than your arm. It is absolutely insane. They're riding with the backup quarterback now for what's most of the season. They just chose a good backup. Right, Mac Jones, Baltimore went for Cooper Rush, started him, then they put Tyler Huntley in, and they immediately looked better, even though they didn't, if they'd have played both games within there with Snoop Huntley, maybe it would kind of different results. It was unfortunate at the end of the first half, kind of the play calling where they did 2 of the worst tush pushes ever, and then handed it off to Derrick Henry at the goal line, and it all went wrong on the brink of half time.
That was a bad set of downs, by the way.
That was a terrible set of downs. It's one of the worst that you could see this season. Why don't you just run a quarterback sneak if you're going to do that? So it was just, for me, crazy decision making. He looks lost. He looks like, I'm reading a lot of Baltimore fans saying he's unwilling to change any staffing or anything like that. You should be still getting more out of what you have on the field and making the most of that. So 1-5, it's not great. The Steelers 4-1 and win that division. It's going to be really, really hard for Baltimore. I think it's impossible, almost impossible, for them to get a wild card slot at 1-5. Lamar would have to be perfect when he comes back.
Yeah, I also think it's impossible for them to win the division, which I've heard people say they could still win the division. Wild card, I personally just doubt it, but I would doubt any 1-5 team. People keep bringing up their schedule and say they could rattle off 9 wins in a row when he gets back, but it's like the NFL's hard. Even if you batter a team, there might be 3 turnovers, and you're like, oh my god, how have we lost that game? They can't really afford many of them. It's like last year when the Bengals were like 2-4. Then they'd go 2-5, and everyone would be like, they're done. Then they'd go 3-5, and everyone would say, oh yeah, but they can rattle off 6. Like, yeah, but a team that's 3-5 don't often rattle off 6, because there's a reason why they're 3-5, and it feels like for them it's offensive line that's bad again, and then defense is not good. And some of the injuries are long term. Madubuike is not coming back. Lamar's hamstring isn't he's a running quarterback. Is his hamstring going to be great? It's just, not great. And I agree with you. They all want Zach Orr fired. And I heard a couple of people say, like, okay, cool. Zach Orr calls the plays. John Harbaugh's in the meetings all week on defense and will help plan the game plan. I think that's what the national media maybe don't talk about, but Ravens fans locally are like, we know John Harbaugh's in those meetings and he's not. The defense has been the same. So I'm with you. I think this is a good shout. How they only scored 3 points, by the way, and Derrick Henry did have 122 yards. This thing, Derrick Henry is awful with a backup quarterback and awful when the team's down multiple scores. But this week, he still got 122 yards and they scored 3. So, yeah, that leads me on nicely to 10 minutes around the NFL because I've got a couple of categories to go over. And this does involve the team who won this game, the Rams. Both these teams won, the Rams and the Packers. But both those two teams need to play better than what we got out of this week if they're going to have very good records and challenge AFC teams and top NFC teams. Because if they play like they did this week, I thought both these teams were extremely underwhelming. Even though they both won, I've been underwhelmed the last 3 weeks for both of them. And I think they need to turn it around a bit because they are Super Bowl contenders, but not playing like this.
Yeah, I completely agree. On Jordan Love, at least 10% of his passes feel like he's giving the other team the chance to make a play on them. The Packers, maybe we wouldn't discuss them in this light had they not looked so good in week 1. Unless they just kind of ground out the win against Detroit, maybe with a field goal, but they absolutely put it on them. So maybe we've kind of stepped ahead where Green Bay actually are in their development, So we always say kind of when you get into the NFL season, you just take a win and move on. But I actually totally agree with you that neither of them look right.
And the Rams, it's only been a couple of weeks. Packers, it's arguably been every week except for one. The Rams I'm more concerned about, but I think they've probably got more middle tier talent, whereas the Rams are obviously a lot of superstars. So, And Puka again nearly got hurt, came back. The Rams just need to. I think they need to play better on offense for sure. And Packers wise, it just seems like the defense is just not played well enough, especially against the run. Has not played well enough all season. A couple of teams that have played well enough though. Seahawks beat the Jags 20-12, and the score should be bigger than that. They absolutely put it on them. It was the most pressure any quarterback's got in terms of Trevor Lawrence since Patrick Mahomes played the Titans in 2022 and had 10 sacks, I believe it was 9 sacks. It was the worst game he's ever had in terms of sacks. They were hitting him all the time. DeMarcus Lawrence looked like he was 25 again, and he looked extremely good. And then the other team in the NFC, which is why the Packers and Rams need to play better, the Bucks also win 30-19. This game wasn't quite as dominant as probably the Seahawks performance, but Baker Mayfield, just like Sam Darnold, played incredibly well. The defense made some big plays against a banged up football team. And the Bucks and Seahawks get it done and look really impressive and probably put some of those underperforming NFC teams on notice a little bit this week.
Absolutely. And if you would say it was a domination with a low scoring game, and even though Seattle were 1 for 12 on third down, they still totally dominated that game, and it should never have been as close as that, right? So 49ers, who obviously the Buccaneers beat, are just kind of playing as hard as any other team. I mean, they lost Fred Warner in this game. He was carted off. But I just think Tampa Bay are able to overcome these challenges this season. Perhaps they could have beat the Eagles. Perhaps they should have done, but it was a bad pick at the goal line. This is the year, I think, where the NFC feels it's there to be taken, which I think is still why you'd look at Green Bay and be a little bit disappointed. We'd actually look at Tampa Bay and go, you know what? This is a title game team. Everything's going well. They have their own injuries, by the way, their own weapons. They're out on the offensive lines, really banged up, and Cameron Johnson was the leading receiver yesterday. Egbuka was 2 for 24. They kind of wrapped him up, but
he got hurt.
Yeah. So you got Cameron Johnson, Sterling Shepard, Cade Otton all played well yesterday, finding ways to win. And Baker's should have been sacked, scramble on third and long was exceptional. He's playing as well as anyone in the NFL.
Yeah, so good down the field. And right, they are up there. Both these teams. 49ers, they should have a better record as well. They are decimated by injuries, and we'll talk about it as the season goes on. But Fred Warner's now out for the year, which sucks. Probably the best non-pass rusher in terms of defender in the NFL. People like Surtain, okay, but Fred Warner's there's other corners that on their day, I'm like, they're nearly as good or as good as Pat Surtain. But with Fred Warner, there's no linebacker that touches Fred Warner. First ballot Hall of Famer, and that injury absolutely sucks. But the Bucks are hurt too, and just playing extremely well. For me, they are the most if you're looking ahead, again, are they the best team? How do you word best? But most promising on who do I think, could win the NFC at the moment? It's just like you have to project them well going forward because they're like the Lions, they're also going to get players back and they're already playing better than those teams. And the quarterback's playing, Goff played well every game apart from week 1 and last night, but Baker's played well every week. So I agree with you. And Sam Darnold, again, deep down the field. Jack Smith-Njigba played really well. Their defensive line looks dominant with Mike McDonald. Mike McDonald, by the way, is 10-1 on the road as a head coach. That's good coaching because his team ain't good enough to be 10-1. So, I think the Seahawks could be really, really good. And, Bucks will be really good going forward for sure as well. 2 AFC teams then that I guess are maybe surprising some. The Patriots win again, 25-19. Drake May looks incredible. He's also getting some MVP buzz. Stephon Diggs looks like he's 25, which is just a beautiful storyline because he's the most chaotic man. He's the new Odell in terms of being a chaotic wide receiver. And then Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, 23-9 against the Browns. This was more about the Steelers' defense. I do not know why Dylan Gabriel was throwing it like 50 times a game. But yeah, both those teams in games that were maybe trap games against weak teams, they come out and win the football game different ways. The Steelers defense looks great and they make some, Rodgers definitely made some good plays, but the yak is the key. The Patriots is all about Drake May. But overall, 2 impressive wins for teams that, they should be in the playoffs. But for them, it's disappointing now if those 2 teams don't make the playoffs for their fans.
Yeah, I mean, if Patriots could find a run game from somewhere, by the way, they'd actually be a really well-rounded offense. Mm-hmm. The pass attack, I mean, May, it looks great. The actual... You always know when you've got a good quarterback on your hands because they're elevating lower talented people like Kayshon Boutte all of a sudden, who looks like an NFL wide receiver. He was absolutely abysmal for 2 years. You've got Demario Douglas, who looks like a good NFL receiver now. So that's the biggest compliment that you can kind of give anyone, isn't it? Stephon Diggs, like you've said, has got the renaissance. Now, if you go over to Pittsburgh, Aaron Rodgers, by the way, looks happy.
He does look happy, yeah. He's got his swagger.
He looks happy, and he does. And I kind of rode him on the podcast for quite a few years, but there's something about him. He kind of feels like it's not that they've got something special. Like I don't think Super Bowl winning anything near that level, but he's looking and thinking, Baltimore are 1-5. We are completely in charge of this division. This is exactly how I want to go out in my career. Feeling much more happy. He was even seen buzzing about how chopped up the field was yesterday. He just seems to be enjoying his football again. So a great pass to Metcalf as well. If you can get that out of Rodgers a couple of times a game with smart decision making, they should win this division from here.
Yeah, Darnell Washington, by the way, 20 yards per catch, mental. He's basically an offensive lineman. DK Metcalf every week, 23 yards per catch. He's just he has one big play from Rodgers, and then he also has one big play where he makes about 5 people miss every week. And it's just like, okay, you're getting those 2 plays from DK. It ends up either being 10 or 14 points or 6, but you're getting them. And then, you say Rodgers makes a few good plays on his own after that. He even scrambled yesterday. He got hit after 1 yard, but he was like 5 yards around the line of scrimmage and scrambled around a bit and trying to roll back the years a little bit. But yeah, the Browns, 52 passing attempts from Dylan Gabriel. They're only down, 14, is it? That's stupid from Kevin Stefanski. I'm sorry. If they were down 35, it's like, I get it. You can't run it at all. But yeah, for him to throw it 50 odd times a game this game is mental when the Steelers pass rush is probably top 3 in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that speaks to your offensive kind of strategy or the development of Dylan Gabriel, what you think he's going to get out of dropping back 52 times on the road to the Steelers, when he's got Judkins, who's looked really good, by the way, since he's kind of come on the field. So, yeah, it's just strange decision making all round, isn't it, from a bad team.
It is. And our last...
Shador, by the way, Shador's number 2 now on the depth chart. It's not going to be long.
Don't need Shador to play. It feels like it's going to happen. I didn't mention my boy, by the way. Spencer Rattler was good again. He's the starter for the Saints. He is. They just need to find some players to play with him going forward. Last section then. 2 AFC South teams going in different directions. The Colts sneak, and I do mean sneak, a 31-27 against the Cardinals, where Jacoby Brissett was absolutely ripping the ball down the field and kind of made me more concerned about Kyler Murray. But the Colts get it done. They also lose 2 players before the game in pre-game warm-ups to like 2 accidents, which is mental. One guy got a concussion because a tight end ran into him, and then I think Anthony Richardson's fractured his eye socket in the warm-ups. So
yeah, on one of those bands. If you ever use one of those bands, I'm never using one of them ever again. I can tell you that.
The Cardinals, there's the thing. Very Colts Cardinals game. We won't talk about it too much. We spent loads of time on the Colts. Daniel Jones still look good. They score 31 points. Offense is absolutely flying. But the Cardinals do look better in this game, so we'll see what that means. And then their team going the wrong direction. The Titans, we both picked them to cover the spread. They lose 20-10 to the Raiders. Still awful in this game. Cam Ward may have looked just as bad. It's probably his worst game. And then you got the head coach after the game saying, yeah, we all need to play better. This is not working. And then he paused and goes, including Cam, almost calling, because Cam keeps saying their ass every week. He's basically calling him out and say, yeah, you're not playing well either, mate. Yeah, Titans, he almost has to be first. I know Mike McDaniel, I keep talking about. You keep talking about Brian Daboll, and then he comes in and beats your football team. Yeah. Callahan just has to go. This is a complete disaster to lose to this Raiders team 20-10.
Yeah, and it never felt close at all, did it? Obviously, they only got the touchdown late in the fourth quarter to make it look close. I don't think you should be getting handled by this Raiders team, unfortunately. So, yeah, it's not looking good. It's an interesting season of development from Cam Ward. I kind of like his attitude, to be honest with you, but he's just... You've got to play a little bit better, but what's around him is not good at all. I mean, he's got about 60 yards from his running backs yesterday, so it's not...
No good. It is not good enough. And what's also not good enough is our weekly points total as we wrap up. We haven't finished the week, but through Sunday, Patrick wins our week 6 predictions 6-5. Again, I could tie it up tonight on Monday Night Football as we record, but 6-5 is awful. So we're also on notice to be first. Podcast is fired. The betting odds. We're slightly behind Mike McDaniel on the odds at the moment. You got Mike, we got Aaron, we got Callahan ahead of us, but after that we've leapfrogged Daboll with our current performance. So we got to be better when it comes to next week. And again, we'll be back soon to preview on Thursday, week 7 of the NFL season. We've got some pretty good games. We've got a good London game, like we mentioned. Again, the Eagles are the best team at 6 o'clock, or the best game at 6 p.m. I feel like that's been 4 weeks of the season where they've been the main game in the 6 p.m. window. We've got Colts Chargers, which should be quite fun. Commanders Cowboys should be a game full of offense. We've got a nice doubleheader again on Monday Night Football with the Bucs and Texans Seahawks rounding out the week. So some good games again. Week 8 onwards is much stronger, but week 7 is a little bit better than week 6. And you can go follow us at GoFor2Pod on Twitter/X to see us tweet anything about these games. And you can follow Patrick as well at MugsNFL, where you can get your Spencer Rattler Saints merch, because we all need some Spencer Rattler merch in our life. But enjoy the rest of your week, everyone, and we will speak to you guys soon.
I'll speak to you soon, everyone.